welcome to the Bible class of Jews for Jesus with Bob Mendelsohn.
Tonight we're studying at least two chapters, 26 and 27 of Exodus, and we're going to look at the general construction of this tent and look at a few of the items that are included in this pop-up Coleman tabernacle that Moses and the boys are going to put together and take around the wilderness for the next 4 decades. 40 years sounds like a long time. And you want to have a durable tent for whatever you're going to be carrying. You don't want leakage, you don't want seepage, you just want protection, and more than that, you want clarification of what this thing is all about. So that's what this is, Exodus 26. We're going to talk about making now the curtains for the tabernacle. 10 curtains are going to be woven together. They're specified here. You'll see it, that there are 5 curtains joined to one another and the other 5 curtains joined to one another. So they're going to be 28 cubits long in verse 2, and the width of each curtain is 4 cubits. So the curtains will all have the same measurements. Well, that makes it easy, and that's sort of what they do when they put up new drapes at your house. They measure it and they say, well, let's not put one giant drape up here. Like at our window here at the shop, we'd put up 4. And each one would be the same size. That's sensible. And you'd put them on loops of blue, as it says in verse 4, on the edge of the outermost curtain in the first set, and do the same with the edge of the curtain in the second set. And then, in fact, make 50 loops in the one curtain, and make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain in the second set, and they'll be opposite each other. 50 clasps of gold. Join the curtains to one another with the clasps so that the tabernacle will be a unit. So that the tabernacle, verse 6, will be a unit. I can't emphasize that enough. Hamishkan Echad. It's going to be one tabernacle, but obviously the word Echad here means more than how many are there. There's one tabernacle, and it's made of all these pieces and frames and loops and rings, so that the tabernacle will be Echad. Where do you know the word Echad? From the Shema, Deuteronomy 6. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Some people say, well, that means that there's only one God. That is a numerical entry, like an algebraic or arithmetic counting. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is not 2, He's not 3, He's not 15, He's only one. But that's exactly not what the Bible says. The Bible says that in Genesis 2 that husband shall leave his father and mother, cleave to his wife, and they too shall become basar echad, one flesh. Obviously that means that there's going to be a unity. We're not going to become the same. Jane, you did not become Jerry. Jerry, you did not become Jane. We understand that. But we become complementary or united in marriage. And the Hebrew for that is Bahaya Hamishkan Echad. So obviously we've been talking about Genesis 2, and husband and wife should become one flesh, but they're not going to become the same flesh, and we're not even counting. It's not one flesh in the sense of numerically one. My wife and I are not one, we are 2, but yet the Bible says we're one. Obviously, it's not talking about one in a numerical sense, but one in a united sense. Same thing here. All these measurements of all the curtains and the rods and the rings and the loops of the first few verses are designed to help the tabernacle be one unit. Well translated here as a unit, but the Hebrew, don't miss it, echad. So when people tell you that Jesus can't be God because the Shema says there's only one, they miss it on 2 points. One, they miss it because God is one, however God demonstrates Himself, and they don't understand that. And secondly, He is a unity, not numerically one. You say he's one, I'll say he's 500. You say he's 500, I'll say he's one. That's not the count. The Hebrew on Deuteronomy 6 even sounds to me much more like, listen, Israel, we talked about this last week. The Lord our God is that one, not one numerically, but the one about whom I'm speaking. Verse 7. Then you shall make curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. You shall make 11 curtains in all, an odd number, a prime number. The length of each curtain, 30 cubits. The width of each cubit, a curtain, 4 cubits. 11 curtains shall have the same measurements. Everything is designed with precision. Can you see that? Throughout the record of this building, this odd building that God is going to use to frame himself so that he might, what was the word in last week's chapter? Build me this tabernacle so that I might dwell with them. That's right, shachan. So that I can dwell with the people. And so this is God's house, if you will. A location where you can find him. People say, I don't know how to find God. Well, all you had to do in those days was go to the Mishkan. It's there. And he wants it to be elaborate, and he wants it to be precise. And he wants it to be at his direction. People say, we don't really need to do it this way. We could modify it a little. He was a little exaggerated, don't you think? Why 11 curtains? Let's make it 9. I know why you want. No, you don't know why. He doesn't say why. He just says, this is how I want it. And this is his design. Same measurements. Verse 9, join the 5 curtains by themselves, the other 6 curtains by themselves. You'll make double over the 6th curtain at the front of the tent, so that the front of the tent is going to have a double curtain. Double protection, double security. That's the in and out. That's the entry door. There's no other door. There's no other way in. Well, God, this is a little weird. Why would you build a place like this? If you want everybody to meet with you, why don't you have 4 doors? Why don't you, in fact, have 8 doors? In fact, why have any doors at all? Just let the whole thing be open. Because, if I were God, people say, I would open it up for everybody. Well, no, that's if God were you. But if you were God, you'd do it this exact way, because that's how God did it. Do you get that? If I were God, I wouldn't do this. No, that's not true. If you were God, you'd do it the way God already said to do it. So he wants a one-way in compartment. You say, well, that's not fair. You can have as many ways as you want in. No, that's not how it works. Verse 10, make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that's on the outermost in the first set, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that's outermost in the second set. Make 50 clasps of bronze. Put the clasps into the loops and join the tent together so that it will be, what do we say? A unit. That's it. V'haya echad. There it is. So have all these numerical weird stuff. 15 of those, 11 of these, 9 of those, 2 turtle doves and a partridge. So that there is one building. The whole thing is designed to be an expression of who God is. I want to meet with you together. One God. That's it. I'm there. Verse 12, the overlapping part that's left over in the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that's left over, shall lap over the back of the tabernacle. The cubit on the one side, the cubit on the other of what's left over, and the length of the curtains of the tent shall lap over the sides of the tabernacle on the one side and on the other to cover it. Make a covering for the tent of ram's skins dyed red, and a covering of porpoise skins above. Well, that makes sense. Porpoise skins would cover for rain. They'd handle the water pretty well. Don't understand the red dyeing of the ram's skin. What color are ram's skins usually?
White.
They'd be, the wool would be white. It might be light colored, beige, might be brown. But somehow he wanted not the random nature of natural skins, but he wanted a comprehensive view that it was all red on top. Verse 15, then you shall make the boards for the tabernacle of acacia wood, standing upright, 10 cubits the length of each board. What do we decide? How big is 10 cubits? About 5 meters. That's the length of each board, and 1.5 cubits the width of each board. So everything has precision. Do you see that? Every board, you can't say, this ought to do. Next door, over the last week, they've been, for months now, they've been tearing down a building. They've been digging out the sand that they've discovered was about the first 10 meters underneath the building where they were. 10 meters was all sand. Now, this week they found rock. Because they're building a 22-story building next door, they have to go down a good long way. Eventually they hit bedrock. I know that because all week we've been blasted here and shaken, and it's been pretty unhappy. They closed off, you might have remembered last week when you came here, that the footpath was very narrow. They had that wide fence. People complained to council. People with prams especially couldn't get by. It wasn't safe. Buses were coming by, and people were in danger. So this week they've spent 4 full days moving the building. They've actually been building a canopy, and they've rebuilt the footpath. Tomorrow they reopen it, and the footpath will be open nice and new under this new canopy of massive steel structure. They've got boards across the top so they can walk across the top, and then the work can happen down underneath. That has nothing to do with the actual building. That's just to get people passing. So they spent 4 days building a temporary footpath and cover. That is a lot, and it's been, I don't know how many dozen guys out there doing it with major machines, and you still see the crane out there. It's a lot of work. You can't do that and say, yeah, just hand me a board, just any old board. Even for a temporary structure like this, you have to be precise. You have to have the right steel girders, you have to have the right crane, you have to have the right stuff with precision. You can't just say, yeah, just throw up 3 or 4 foot either way. You've got to choose, because the whole building is dependent on balance, that it might be echad. So these boards have to be exactly right. The length has to be right, the width has to be right. And then verse 17, 2 tenons for each board fitted to one another, thus you shall do for all the boards. Make the boards for the tabernacle, 20 for the south side, 40 sockets of silver. You get the idea. There's precision. God is telling them this. God is very exact. 40 sockets of silver, verse 22, for the rear of the tabernacle to the west, make 6 boards. Make 2 boards for the corners of the tabernacle at the rear. I mean, this is an engineering class. This is not usual. When you ask people, hey, what do you reckon you'll find in the Bible? I played golf today with this lovely Buddhist fellow from Thailand. And another brother and I were playing with him, and we got talking about the Sabbath. And he said at the end of that conversation that your religion, meaning ours, is much better than my religion, meaning Buddhism, because we give people a day off. But he said, we have to have our mortgage paid. I said, so do we. This is a statement when you take a day off of faith in the God who will provide for you. When you take a Sabbath and you don't work 7 days like Thai people do, you're saying, God, I trust you for my 7th portion, my 14% that I'm not dealing with. In the same way, if I ask people, so what do you think is in the Bible? Most people would say what? What do you reckon they'll say? What's the content of the Bible? Commandments. A lot of negative stuff, telling me what I can't do. But look at this. He's spending chapter after chapter telling us how to build a building. That would so surprise people with precision. Make 2 boards, verse 23, for the corners of the tabernacle at the rear. They shall be double beneath, and together they shall be complete to its top, to the first ring. Thus it shall be with both of them. They shall form the 2 corners. There'll be 8 boards with their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one board and 2 sockets under another board. Then you shall make bars, verse 26, of acacia wood, 5 for the boards for the one side, 5 bars for the boards of the other side. This is so inspiring. Middle bar, verse 28, in the center of the boards, pass through from one end to end, from end to end. Overlay the boards with gold. Wow! Wait a minute, we've taken the ordinary and made it extraordinary by taking ordinary wood and covered it with gold. Make their rings of gold as holders for the bars, and overlay with the bars with gold. There is a lot of gold in this building. Verse 30, erect the tabernacle according to its mishpat, which you've been shown in the mountain. What's the mishpat? The pattern, the plan, that which God showed Moses last week. You've seen it. It's precise. It's golden, it's glorious, it's bright, and some people say it's merely a blueprint, but I think it's more than that. I think he actually showed Moses the heavenly tabernacle. I think he actually showed him that. I don't know how he did that. Was it with a hologram? I don't know if he took him to heaven. I mean, that's weird, but I don't know how he did it, but he showed him on the mountain.
Is that Holy of Holies the same temple that John saw in Revelation?
I think so. And the book of Hebrews says it. This And Ezekiel's got that tabernacle clearly shown, 44 to 46, is it, of Ezekiel. Whatever that is in heaven, I think that's what Moses saw. Maybe he popped in a VHS tape, a beta. We really don't know, but God showed him that. And that's what he's supposed to. He says, no, you can't just do, there's got to be, it's the pattern. I saw the pattern. By the way, mishpat is the same word, mishpatim, judgments.
Sentence.
As in a judge is sentencing someone. So this idea of a judgment, because if you build according to the right standards, that's itself a judgment against those who do it wrong, or who want to do it wrong. It's kind of an interesting term. Verse 31, you shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twisted linen. It shall be made with cherubim, the work of a skillful workman. Cheruv.
What do we with cherubim?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Well, it doesn't mean that the cherubim are actually going to be working along with Bezalel and Oholiab. It means they're supposed to be inlaid or stitched or somehow designed on the veil. Now, again, we have to remind ourselves, if you're listening online and you missed last week's lesson, or you're scratching your head thinking, wait a minute, how can you do angels on linen when God clearly said don't make anything out of a graven image? But of course the intent here is not to worship this thing but to decorate it. It's just decoration, and that's okay.
Is there a cherubim on the both sides of the ark?
That's right. Same cherubim. And this is the first time he uses the word chashav, meaning skillful, and I think this is kind of assumed at the end of all this conversation. We need somebody who knows what they're doing to put this together. I guess when you talk about, I need a 3 cubit by 4 cubit linen, Mrs. Goldberg could cut that out. But when you start talking cherubim and fine linen, and you think, I better get a skillful workman to do this one. This is not just perfunctory or utilitarian. Hang it on the 4 pillars of acacia, overlaid with gold, their hooks also being of gold, 4 sockets of silver. Hang up the veil under the clasp, bring in the ark of the testimony. Ark of the testimony. What's the ark of the testimony? The ark of the covenant. Aron ha'edut, middle of 33. And it's a great term. Aron meaning ark, like a box, like a cabinet, a cupboard. That's right, a wardrobe of some kind. But it's not the ark of God, it's not the ark of the Bible, it's the ark of the witness, Eid. And I like that. It's sort of that same, it goes with, I think, the term mishpat, judgment. I see this more as a courtroom that is designed where God, not where He sentences us, but where He welcomes us. So the judge is not to be feared, the judge is to be respected. And we are going into a courtroom. We've got the decorative angels on both sides. I like that. And he says it's the ark of the testimonies, of the witnesses. Every word should be confirmed by how many witnesses? 2 or 3 witnesses. So don't miss this idea of the Aron ha'edut, the ark of the testimony, of the witnesses, because the witnesses, 2 or 3, are there to confirm every word, not to make you feel bad, but to make us feel comforted that the judge is in the house and he's on our side. This is good news. Bring in the ark of the testimony there within the veil, verse 33, and the veil shall serve for you as a partition between the holy place and the Holy of Holies. So this is Hibdilah, this is from Badal, meaning the Havdalah, light. This idea of the separation. So we looked at this a little last week. Now I'm going to do right from above. So this is the Holy of Holies, and this is the holy place. And holy place, another word for holy place is sanctuary. And it says here that this veil is to separate the Holy of Holies from the holy place. And then these curtains are all around this whole thing. And there are 11 of them. And then there's this almost designed roof with the porpoise skin and the ram skins dyed red, and that's covering the whole top. And then there's an overlap. Didn't you like that there's an overlap? Because the rain, you don't want it raining in, so you got the overlap coming in over the sides. So the whole thing is covered neatly, But looking down through the roof, there is the holy place, and there's the Holy of Holies. And here's the veil right there between. That veil is important to know. If you're coming tomorrow night, I will talk about that veil as that which is torn. Verse 34, you shall put the mercy seat on the Ark of the Testimony in the Holy of Holies. So now this ark, this box with the testimony, and it's fitting that what's going to go in there, there's three things really, but the one thing which we usually call the testimony is the Ten Commandments. And it's 2 tablets. And they testify. The mercy seat, we decided last week we were going to call it the atonement cover, the kaporet. And so that is going to be on top of the box called the Ark of the Testimony, inside H squared, the Holy of Holies. You shall set the table outside the veil and the lampstand opposite the table on the side of the tabernacle toward the south, and put the table on the north side. So what's going to go on the table? We'll find out later. Bread. Bread's going to go on the table. And the lampstand, what do we call a lampstand? Menorah. That's verse 35. So there, the lampstand, the menorah, and the table are on opposite sides of the holy place. The table of showbread we talked about last week. And what's another word for showbread? The table of faces. The table of His presence. Verse 36, you shall make a screen for the doorway of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twisted linen, the work of a weaver. So this is not a skilled person in the sense of the person working with gold. This is a weaver. You shall make 5 pillars of acacia for the screen and overlay them with gold. Verse 37, their hooks also being of gold. You shall cast 5 sockets of bronze for them. Make the altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long, 5 cubits wide. The altar shall be square. Its height shall be 3 cubits. You shall make its horns on its 4 corners. Its horns shall be of one piece with it. Overlay it with bronze. Out here, in what's called later the outer court, this section outside, the one-way in, with the double curtain, and out here is this box, which is an altar, and that's where we kill things. It's a sacrificial, it's a slaughtering place. And the altar is made of what? Chapter 27, verse 1, acacia wood. And it's covered over, and you'd fully expect it to be covered over with gold, because everything's covered with gold. But no, it's covered over with what? Bronze, verse 2. And that bronze means that what happens at the altar? What do we do there? What's the point? Slaughtering, but what are we slaughtering? We're doing...
Animals.
Yeah, and why? Why do we slaughter animals? Sacrifice so that we get back in relationship to God. So bronze is the color of judgment. Gold is something different. The altar is covered in bronze because God is going to judge the animal there, and we are going to be liberated. There's going to be a transfer, an exchange that happens there. It's important to recognize that. So now we get our first clue of what a color means. There's colors, there's fabrics, there's all kinds of things that initially I just read it and say, well, that's what it was. But sometimes there's going to be a clue. This is a cryptic crossword, and sometimes it'll be a clue that we can then use throughout the rest of it. So let's see if there might be others that we can learn as well. 27, verse 2, covered with bronze. You shall, verse 3, make its pails for removing its ashes, its shovels, and its basins, and its forks, and its fire pans. You shall make all its utensils nechoshet, that's right, of bronze. Make it for a grating of network of bronze, and on the net you shall make 4 bronze rings. See, the whole thing about the altar is judgment, and that is not to be taken lightly. Put it beneath under the ledge of the altar so that the net will reach halfway up the altar. Make poles for the altar, verse 6, poles of acacia wood, overlay them with bronze. Poles shall be inserted into the rings so that poles shall be on the 2 sides of the altar when it's carried. That makes sense. I mean, these things had to be carried. They would be heavy. Just the acacia wood itself. Get a couple fellows to carry that, but then overlay it with some kind of elements. It's going to be made much heavier. So you need poles to spread the weight, if you will, and make it a lot easier for several people to carry. Verse 8, you shall make it hollow with planks as it was shown you on the mountain, so they shall make it. So Moses is getting this and shown, ro'eh, to see. Something Moses clearly saw on the mountain is what he's now passing on. The details he's getting here, and I'm sure he's writing it in his PDA. Kids today, they write on their hand with pen and ink. Stop writing on yourself. But I think Moses would have had a little papyrus or something, and he's taking down details. He's not saying, hey, God, slow down. Whoa, hang on a second. I mean, he's taking it down. God's speaking to him with clarity and precision. Verse 9, you shall make the court of the tabernacle. On the south side there shall be hangings for the court of the fine linen, 100 cubits long one side, pillars 20 sockets of bronze. Hooks of the pillars, bands shall be of silver. Silver. See, I was all ready for bronze or gold, and now he introduces silver. Likewise, for the north side in length, there'll be hangings for cubits, 100 cubits long, 20 pillars, 20 sockets of bronze. Okay, bronze, that's all about judgment. The hooks of the pillars and their bands shall be of silver. What's the purpose of bronze? Bronze is what? Judgment. And what's the purpose of judgment? Is to bring us back into relationship with God. What's another word for that? Redemption. Silver looks like it's about redemption. And it's the follow-up. It's really the other half of judgment. When we're judging the animal instead of us, then we're liberated into a redemption, into a different way of living. In the same way that in Egypt, the plagues came at the earlier part of our study in the book of Exodus. And as a result of that, all those 10 mighty acts or 10 plagues, we were redeemed out of Egypt. Redemption is still not the end, but it is the other half of judgment. We're going to judge Egypt and redeem Israel. It's the back half. It's the flip side of the coin. It's a weird coin, but it works. Verse 11, likewise for the north side there shall be hangings 100 cubits long, 20 pillars, etc. Width of the court, verse 12, west 50 cubits, 10 pillars, 10 sockets. Width of the court on the east, 50 cubits. You get the idea. This is one perfectly rectangular design. The gate of the court, screen of 20 cubits of blue and purple and scarlet. I've seen those three colors before. Blue and purple and scarlet. In fact, if I put blue and scarlet together, I'll get purple. Isn't that how the color scheme works? But somehow those are all designed and they're fine and twisted in the work of a weaver, and pillars and sockets. All the pillars around the court will be furnished with silver bands with their hooks of silver and their sockets of bronze. So the sockets are judged, and the pillars and bands and hooks are the redemption side of things. We'll see that more clearly in due course. The length of the court, 100 cubits, the width 50 throughout. So this whole tent is actually subsumed in a larger one, and that is here as I wrap it around. So this outer court actually goes all the way around the altar and the future laver. We're going to see that. And this is 50. And this is 100. Whatever it is, it's perfectly rectangular. And you can get all kinds of cool angles because it's perfectly rectangular. Certainly the Holy of Holies. We'll get some more precision in due course here. Verse 18, the length of the court, 100 cubits, the width 50 throughout, the height 5 cubits of fine twisted linen, and their sockets of bronze. All the utensils of the tabernacle, used in all its service, and all its pegs and all the pegs of the court shall be of bronze. Somehow the judgment will be a safeguard for Jewish people and a prevention of others. It's your home away from home. It's God's home, but it's going to be representing a safe haven for the Jewish people too. You know the word safe haven? You know that phrase? Who uses it today? The UN uses it, and it's a little sticker you put on a door. You put on a door and you say, this house is a safe haven. Safe house, that's it. So if a kid is walking down the street and somebody's beating them up, they can run to Mrs. Johnson's or Dr. Goldberg's and they can find a safe house, and they know it's there, and they knock and they're welcomed immediately. And I think that's what the tabernacle was designed to be. Not only was it designed to be a place for God to dwell, but it was a place for God to meet with us, and a place for us to find safety and redemption. Verse 20, this is so unusual. Now after we've been building for a while, and before we get to the garments that we're going to wear, he says, we need some oil. And in verse 20, you shall charge the sons of Israel that they bring you clear oil of beaten olives for the light. This says an interesting thing, to make a lamp burn continually. But it's not the Hebrew word for burning. It's the Hebrew word for going up, the Allah.
In Singapore, they have cotton wool based in olive oil. And it's a continuous thing. Because the tendon that serves the shamas or even the tambi, the men servant for the synagogue, always refills it to make sure that the ner tamid doesn't go out.
If it's a ner tamid and it goes out, it's not tamid. Tamid means continually or forever or eternal.
That's what they do. They try to do that it doesn't go out at all.
I know synagogues that don't use oil, but rather have electricity. And it's weird when there's a electrical storm or something, and the eternal light is not so eternal. But here they definitely use lamps, just like they use in Singapore. So he says, charge the children of Israel. I want you to make a commandment to them. Titzaveh et bnei Israel. So command the Jewish people. Verse 20. V'kechu elecha shemen zayit zach. Now this is, to me, interesting. Oil from an oil zach. This is katit. This is beaten. This is not the normal way you make oil from olives. This is hand beaten. This is squeezed rather than any other way that they might do it. And that hand squeezing to me talks about something really precious, and we'll talk about that in a moment. In the tent of meeting, Ohel Moed, I like that we call it the tent of meeting. It's a tent of meeting, not a tent of rules. It's a tent of meeting together. That's beautiful to me. It's community. It's the community center that they have in various suburbs around town. You can go to the Pennant Hills Community Center. You can go to the Waverly Council Center or Chamber. Well, it's not the chamber. Just the building next door. That kind of thing. The idea is a meeting place, not where you have to go to a class. It's not a school. It's a meeting place. Early churches like the Quakers in America called their places the Friends Meeting House. Some of my best Jews are friends. Never mind. So it's the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting. Michutz leparochet. So this is outside the veil, which is before the testimony. Aaron and his son shall keep it, meaning the oil katit, the word beaten, is hand done. It's crushed in your hand rather than using a machine, the olive press. The olive press would have been simple. You toss it in, squish, out. So it's a machine. Here it's personally done. That God wanted the oil for His light to be personal. I don't know how to emphasize this, but to say it, that the mechanics of the world who produce or manufacture things have a place. God bless them. Olive oil, mass manufactured, commercially, great. But if you want something that represents the purity of the light of the glory of God, it's got to go through your own midst. That is so wondrous. God could have said, go to the spring where I'm producing natural oil. But that's not it. He wants somebody to take their hands, squish it, and feel the pain of squeezing, producing that. The oil that you have there in Singapore at the synagogue, and the oil that we use, that we sell here, the olive oil only comes from being pressured and squeezed and traumatized and, if you will, pained. That olive serves a purpose only when it suffers. When it suffers, it produces something so spectacular that people forever, tamid, can run through and be present in its light. When you think about that, your suffering. I talked to a girl yesterday, and we were talking about eternal things and temporary things. She said, well, suffering is temporary. Yeah, I suppose that's right. If you have an idea that heaven is eternal and that we're going to cross out of suffering into heaven. She said, just love is permanent. If it was healthy, it was a good way to evaluate things. And I thought about this reading, and that God Himself wanted the purity of the natural squeeze to produce the thing that so represented Himself in that menorah that was there in the holy place. And it shall be a perpetual statute, and the word perpetual is olam, meaning ongoing throughout their generations for the sons of Israel. But I made mention, I didn't stay with it, verse 20, beaten olives for the light, to make a lamp burn tamid, but it's laha'alot ner tamid, so that the light will go up continually, to make aliyah. The light is going to make a light. So that it's not that the light burns, but that the light is shown going upwards forever. It's not that there's a little trickle. The whole point is not that it's faint, but that it's bright and visible well inside the holy place. And of course, when you're traveling, where does that light go? When they collapse the tent and they move, Think about it. That oil light has to continue to be bright. So Israel would be able to see not just the cloud or the fire that led the whole of the people, but they'd be able to see this tent of meeting when it's mobile by the light that's continually going. That'll be an interesting thing we'll come back to in due course. 28 verse 1, then bring near to yourself Aaron, your brother, as opposed to Aaron, the guy down the street. Of course, Aaron, your brother. How many times you got to tell me Aaron, your brother? But he's talking to an 80-year-old guy. That's okay. And his sons with him from among the sons of Israel to minister as priest to me. So now he's amplifying the ministry that he's giving to Aaron. Aaron, you're going to be the high priest, and your boys, Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, and Itamar. Those 4 boys are going to be the crew that serves this place. But they're not going to serve a place. What are they going to be? They're going to minister to me. What does a priest do? He mediates. He's an intercessor. That's right. He goes between. He's a go-between. They said this. What do you think? Well, all right, I'll come back. I'll mediate the business deal. So maybe the Cohen is like that. But that's the actual word. I want them to go mitoch b'nei Israel, from the midst of the Jewish people, l'kahanoli, to be Kohens to me, to be priests to me. So the idea of being a priest was first and foremost upward, not outward. The first thing a priest has to be is towards God, representing the people, mediating for the people, representing the people, and not being self-serving. And we looked at that before, that the choices that Jethro gave to his son-in-law for leadership for the Jewish people, which are carried over in the Newer Testament in Paul's instructions to both Timothy and Titus. Again, we see it reflected here. When Peter said that the elders among you should be serving me, that there's this idea that the first thing a shepherd should be and do is not worrying about the sheep, although that goes with it, but that he should care about God and have a God-oriented priesthood. Then you've got it down. This is the best thing. To Cohen me, to priest towards me. And then now they better be dressed right. So in verse 2, make holy garments for Aaron your brother, for glory and for beauty. Isn't that nice? Ula Tiferet, beauty. Have you ever been to a synagogue called Tiferet Israel? The beauty of Israel? There's several of those worldwide I've been to. It's kind of a nice thought. So the garments are not just for clothing or for not being embarrassed or to cover up your body parts, but they're for glory and for beauty. And speak to all the skillful persons. Here they are. These are the same, but they're not skillful. It's not the same word. This is chacham. These are wise persons whom I've endowed with the spirit of wisdom. So the first thing they've got is a wisdom that they can now make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he, which means to make him holy, kadesh, that he might kahan. I like this. I just like this. Lekahano li, to minister as a priest to me. These are the garments they shall make: a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, a tunic of checkered work, a turban, a sash. Make holy garments for Aaron your brother. Oh yeah, that's my brother. And his sons, that they may minister as a priest to me. I mean, how many times does he have to emphasize it? This is not so that he can talk and teach the people. His primary purpose is for beauty and glory and to talk to me, to represent the people to me. They shall take the gold and the blue and the purple and the scarlet. There's the blue, the purple, and the scarlet are now mixed with gold and fine linen. There's a mixture happening. And they make the ephod of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twisted linen, the work of a skillful workman. This is chashav again, so it's back to skills. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces joined to its 2 ends, that may be joined. Looks like shoulder pads. Looks like the 80s again. And skillfully woven band, which is on it. That's cheshev. That's the skill again, which is on it. Like its workmanship, same material, gold, blue, purple, scarlet, and fine twisted linen. Now he's adding 2 onyx stones and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel. On 2 stones, onyx. What color is onyx?
Black.
It's a black item, that's right. And you're going to write the names of all of Israel? Just the 12 sons. 6 names on the one stone and the names of the remaining 6 on the other stone according to their birth, meaning in birth order. As a jeweler engraves a signet, you shall engrave the 2 stones according to the names of the sons of Israel. Set them in filigree settings of gold. Put the 2 stones on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as stones of memorial for the sons of Israel. Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord on his 2 shoulders for memorial. Make the filigree settings of gold, 2 chains of pure gold. Make them of twisted cordage work. Put the corded chains on the filigree settings. That's where we're going to stop tonight. The elaborate, decorative settings of the Jewish people. Where are they? On the shoulders of Aaron. So now, that is so beautiful. What does that what does that look like? The burdens of Israel are on his shoulders. Oh man, I've got such a burden. Even when you say, here, let me take the burden off of you, what happens to your shoulders?
Relief.
My shoulders drop, don't they? I feel liberated. So here's the priesthood, Aaron and the boys, and they're designed to be a minister to God. And what are they going to be carrying primarily? The burdens of Israel on their shoulders. You will be a minister to me for the Jewish people. That's the point. And you will rep them. You'll be their representative to me. That is holy, and we're going to see why that's so important in due course. Well, this is the beginning of the unpacking of this whole massive tome of literature about the tabernacle. We're just into chapter 28, and we will carry on in our next lesson right from this very place with the breastplate and see more stones. Imagine an 83-year-old dude having these rocks on his shoulders, and now he's going to get a heavy-duty breastplate he's going to carry. He better have some strength, and he better have been a worker back in the day in Egypt. This is our lesson continuing on the tabernacle. The point being, God wants to meet with us. You want to meet with God. Don't let anything prevent you from meeting with God. If you've got something, He wants to judge it. And if it's sin, let Him judge it and bring it before God at the altar of judgment so that you can be forgiven. That's going to be our big topic tomorrow night at Yom Kippur. And so it's fitting during these Aseret Yemei Teshuvah that we're right there on this.
You've been listening to the Bible class of Jews for Jesus in Australia. For more information, contact Jews for Jesus, Post Office Box 925, Sydney, Australia 2001. God bless you.